when you build a farm or a game on a server and you want people to pay, of course you want them to pay the amount you ask for. So you need an automatic cashier. That's what we're going to build today. So let's say you want them to pay 5 diamonds and instead they put 5 dirt. Then after a while of working, the system gives you back 5 dirt. If you pay 4 diamonds, which is 1 too little, after a while the system gives you back your 4 diamonds. But if you pay 5 diamonds, or actually if you pay more than that, then the system accepts the payment, there is no refund, and the diamonds end up in a chest where you as the owner of the game or place can pick them. It also gives you a signal that you can use to trigger a farm, a game, whatever. So let's get building. As you can tell, it's a very complicated redstone. So I gave a different type of material to every part of the redstone. I used lights with signs and colored blocks wherever a signal is used for several purposes. I'll put a world download into the description, so if the tutorial is not enough for you, you can just download it and follow it bit by bit. So the first segment is the hopper line. It's important that they all face into the correct direction, otherwise it will not work. The one at the bottom is actually not so important because it's just so you can place a chest from where you pick the payments. That one faces to the left and actually leads to the refund line. That one faces down. They all face to the right. They all face down. That one faces to the left. He faces down. Him to the left. He in front and he to the right. So on top of that one is where you place the trapped chest that takes the payments. So next you have to build a classical item sorter behind that middle hopper line. It's just a comparator facing into a redstone wire, facing into a repeater, into a torch on a jack-o'-lantern. The jack-o'-lantern is just to have some lighting in there to prevent mob spawning and also to make it less laggy, since the light prevents changes in light level because of the redstone torch. That is the hopper that takes the payment that you want, and for filler items you need to have one of the payment here and 41 here in that system. You can build a shorter version of the item sorter that only takes, I think, 5, because there is of course no overflow here, so an overflow protection is not needed. But I usually build those because that's how I'm used to build them. So the next bit are those 3 stoppers. They prevent items like here from being sucked down by the hopper below, and since there's nowhere where that hopper faces into, they just stay. If you push that button so the block is retracted, then the item passes until here, and you can do the same going all the way down until to the chest. The design is easy. It's just a sticky piston with a redstone block in front powered by a torch pointing into a repeater, so you should be able to build it. So the first line we want to build is the one that opens stopper 1, that blocks the entrance of regular payment into the system to be counted. So we take the signal with the comparator from that hopper here, going into a repeater, going into any type of block. I use the redstone lamp because it's a signal that enters or is important for the process. Payment entered, going into a pulse generator, just a sticky piston with the block on top. So that piston pushes the redstone block forward but then goes back immediately. That goes into a line that opens the stopper. Here is a light again, open stopper 1, because that we will use a second time. The next bit is where the counting is done. So we have 2 hoppers facing into each other next to the 2 positions of the redstone block we just placed. we take the signal from that one into a comparator, into a falling edge detector, which is just a sticky piston with an observer on top. Take the output with a repeater into that block, which we will use again. That's why I marked it with a color, and then a line going into that piston to push back the redstone block. You always need to place 2 items less than you want to count. So if you want to count, for example, 5 diamonds, which is the assumption for the build now, you have to place 3 items in here. So the payment is okay when 2 conditions meet. One is that after the counting there's still an item in that hopper. The other is that the counting is done. And so we have an AND gate here that puts those 2 together. The signal from here, the payment entered or still in the hopper, we take directly into that red block for further use, and then into that AND gate. That signal we take a repeater on 3 ticks, then a falling edge detector again, another repeater on 2 ticks. So we have enough delay, and then we enter the AND gate. Here also we have a block that we will reuse the signal. So that next bit of the contraption gives us 2 outputs, whether the payment has been enough or not. You want to place a non-sticky piston next to that redstone torch, pushing a redstone block forward and backward with that one, that then takes the signal into that redstone lamp saying payment enough. That powers and unpowers that block. So if the payment has not been enough, that block will be present. So that line will give us a signal, I'm done with counting, but the payment has not been enough. Here we take that signal from payment has been enough with a falling edge detector into a line that the moment all the payment is in that bottom chest will push back that redstone block. So first we have to make the last items enter the system. So from both signals we take an output with a sticky piston and a redstone block that goes into that block with a repeater on 2 ticks, then into that block because we will reuse the signal, and then all along that line into that torch tower that goes to open stopper 1. So the last items can go into the system and will end up here. Now we have to open stopper 2 and stopper 3 according to whether the items are meant to go into the chest or into the refund system. So from that redstone block we take an output into a non-sticky piston with a redstone block that is pushed back by another non-sticky piston. In that front position we take the output with a repeater into a redstone line that goes into that block, unpowering that redstone torch and retracting that piston. From the gray block from before we make a line that goes into a similar contraption with a redstone block between 2 non-sticky pistons, taking that signal on a 4-tick delay into that redstone torch tower. You see there's the redstone torches here, and then 2 redstone dust on top to unpower that one. That way we make sure that if the payment is meant to end in the chest, that one is opened first and that one is only opened after that. Now you place a dropper elevator and a chest to where you want to have the refund of wrong payment, and a hopper line connecting that hopper into that dropper. So I chose that place, but you can place it kind of wherever you want, as long as you avoid places where hopper are powered by redstone. For the dropper elevator you can use whatever wiring you like. The one I found to work to really bring up all items here in that case is a comparator facing into a repeater on 4 ticks, another repeater on 4 ticks, a comparator clock, so you set the comparator subtraction mode, a redstone line, and then observer with redstone on top, observer with redstone on top, until you reach the top. And now if you put items in there, you should end up with all items on top. The last bit to solve is what happens if someone pays with a different type of item, for example dirt, to cheat the system. Those items end up here without going through the sorting system, so they don't trigger all the counting mechanism. So from that block that I turned into purple just because it has a double use, we take the signal with 4 ticks delay into that torch line up that ends at that repeater. We want to break that line whenever we have a signal here. So if there's diamonds in the system, we want them to be counted always. So when they are counted, that torch tower will give a signal upwards with a pulse generator, and then that piston will push the block out of the line, and that line goes all the way over here to the light that says payment to little. When everything is done and the last 2 stoppers are resetted, we take one of their signals. Here you need to place repeaters wherever they mess up with the wiring below to that block next to that piston to push back the block in position. That is the wiring done. So I hope that tutorial was helpful for you. If so, leave me a comment or a like. If you want to see more of them, consider subscribing. See you next time. Bye bye.